Dr. Elena Maris tightened the straps on her diving suit as the submersible hummed beneath the waves. The ocean above was calm, the sunlight filtering through in pale, dancing columns that seemed to bless the mission with quiet serenity. Yet, despite the beauty, there was tension in the small cabin. Elena had studied the deep ocean for years, but nothing had prepared her for the sheer strangeness of what lay ahead. The coordinates they followed led to a section of the continental shelf that had only recently become accessible after the tides revealed its secrets. The sonar had picked up a massive structure, half buried in centuries of sand and coral. Whatever it was enormous, far larger than any ship recorded in human history. "Depth is stable," said Tomas, her co-pilot and chief engineer, his voice steady but laced with excitement. "We're about 30 meters above the seabed. Sensors are picking up a clear object ahead." Elena leaned forward, her eyes scanning the holographic display that projected the outline of the object below. The image was rough at first, fuzzy like an old photograph. But as the submersible drew closer, the contours sharpened. The object was unmistakably a ship, though it did not resemble any vessel she had seen in history books. Its hull was angular and stretched longer than the largest cargo freighters of the modern era. Some sections seemed almost organic, as if the metal itself had grown into its current shape. "Start the scan," she instructed. "I want every detail mapped." The submersible's scanners emitted a soft pulse. Data streamed in, revealing patterns etched into the hull that were not purely functional. Strange glyphs, circular and geometric, wound across the ship's surface like a complex language. Elena felt a chill. These were not the markings of any known human civilization. "Dr. Maris, are you seeing this?" Tomas asked, his voice tight. "These symbols, they don't match any ancient scripts we've cataloged." Elena nodded slowly. "I see them. And I think we're not just looking at a ship. We're looking at something older. Something alien, perhaps. Or at least from a civilization we've never known existed." A sudden tremor ran through the submersible, the instruments flickered, and for a heartbeat, the cabin was plunged into silence. Then the ship itself shifted. Elena gasped. "Did it move?" Tomas stared at the display. "It must be a current. But it's moving up. Slowly. Like it's rising." The submersible rocked as the ship continued its ascent. Sand and debris billowed from the ocean floor, clouding the water. The crew's hearts raced. No natural currents could lift something this massive. Something deeper was at work. Elena pressed her hand against the control panel, as if grounding herself. "Steady. Let's just observe. Keep scanners on full. Don't panic." Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The ship rose higher, until it hovered above the seabed, suspended in the water like a giant ghost. Its shadow stretched across the ocean floor, immense and dark. Elena could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. This was not just an archaeological discovery. This was a message, a signal from a past humanity, or a past older than humanity itself. "Look at the energy readings," Tomas said, his voice tight with awe. "There's a faint electromagnetic field. It's pulsing. Almost like a heartbeat." Elena swallowed hard. She had studied biophysics enough to know what a heartbeat looked like on a monitor, and yet this was different. The pulses were not biological, yet they carried rhythm, a precision that suggested intelligence. "We need to report this immediately," she said. "This isn't just science, it's history. It's..." She paused, searching for the right word. "It's a miracle." Sign. Suddenly, a series of lights flickered along the ship's hull. The submersible's cameras captured them pale blue lights that traced the ancient symbols in a pattern that seemed deliberate, and precise. The lights pulsed in time with the electromagnetic waves, and a strange sensation washed over Elena. It was as if the ship were aware of them, acknowledging their presence. "Dr. Maris, do you feel that?" Tomas whispered. "It's like it's alive." Tomas whispered. Elena nodded slowly. Her rational mind screamed that this was impossible. but her instincts whispered that she had encountered something that defied reason. "Yes," she said quietly. "It's alive. Or at least, it's aware." The ship began to ascend further, its massive form slowly breaking the surface. The water parted, and bubbles erupted like small geysers. Above, the sky remained tranquil, unaware of the marvel below. The submersible rose cautiously, keeping pace with the ship as it surfaced. By the time the first humans above the water saw it, the world would never be the same. From the deck of the research vessel, Elena's assistant, a young woman named Mara, leaned over the railing, eyes wide. "Dr. Maris." "It's huge." Elena did not answer. Words could not capture the sight. The ship, ancient and immense, floated as if it had been waiting for this moment for centuries. The hull shimmered under the sunlight, revealing intricate designs that reflected the water like a mosaic. Back in the submersible, Elena activated the external lights to illuminate the ship's surface. Every inch of it was covered in patterns, some resembling machinery, others like delicate carvings. There were no signs of decay, no corrosion from centuries under the sea. It was as if the ocean had preserved it. Or perhaps, it had protected itself. "Look at this," Tomas said, pointing at a section near the bow. A large panel opened slowly, sliding aside like the petals of a flower. From within came a faint blue glow. Sensors indicated movement, though nothing visible emerged. The energy readings spiked. Elena's heart pounded. "We need to document everything. This could be the most important discovery in human history." She reached for the control panel, preparing to guide the submersible closer to the glowing entrance. As they approached, the water shimmered unnaturally, creating ripples that seemed to bend light itself. It was not just the ship rising, it was the awakening of something far older, something that had waited silently beneath the waves for an unknown reason. A sudden vibration ran through the submersible, more intense than before. The instruments flashed red warnings, and the hull groaned under pressure. Elena steadied herself, refusing to let panic take hold. "Tomas, stabilize. Keep us close, but be ready to retreat if necessary." The ship's lights shifted, forming patterns that were neither random nor familiar. They spiraled along the hull, interacting with the submersible's sensors in ways that defied explanation. Elena felt a strange connection, a silent communication that bypassed language. It was a pull, gentle but undeniable, calling them forward. I don't understand," Tomas said, voice trembling. "It's like it knows us. Like it wants us here." Elena nodded, feeling the same inexplicable pull. For hours, they observed, documenting every detail. The ship remained mostly still, its subtle movements precise and controlled. The patterns of light continued to shift, and the energy pulses became more regular, almost like a rhythm they could anticipate. Elena realized that this was not just a ship. It was a vessel with purpose, a guardian of secrets lost to time. As twilight approached, the ship's activity intensified. From the glowing panels, faint projections emerged, visible only through the submersible's cameras. Shapes moved, forming silhouettes that suggested beings taller and more delicate than humans. Their forms luminous and fluid. They did not speak, but the patterns of light hinted at thought, intelligence, and awareness. Elena's breath caught in her throat. "Tomas, we are not alone here. Not in the sense we imagined. Something or someone is inside. Watching. Learning." Tomas swallowed hard. "And we just woke it up?" "I think we didn't wake it up," Elena whispered. "I think it was waiting. Waiting for us. Or for someone capable of understanding it." Night fell, and the ocean darkened around them. But the ship glowed like a beacon. Elena knew that the coming days would reveal far more than they could imagine. Whatever lay inside the ancient vessel, it had survived millennia with one purpose. And now, humanity had arrived to meet it. As the research team returned to the surface, sending their data to waiting satellites and servers, Elena stared at the ship with a mixture of fear and awe. This was only the beginning. The ocean had given up one of its oldest secrets, and the world above was unprepared for the implications. The sunken ship had risen on its own, obeying a command older than civilization itself. And somewhere, deep within its hull, a presence stirred, aware of the humans who had dared to approach. The story of humanity's encounter with the ancient would begin here, in the cold, dark waters where curiosity met destiny. The ship floated silently on the ocean's surface, its immense hull reflecting the pale morning light. Elena Maris stood on the deck of the research vessel, eyes wide and unblinking, as she stared at the impossible sight. Even after hours of observation the day before, the sheer scale of the vessel and the mysteries it contained still left her breathless. "We need to get closer," Elena said, her voice steady but full of determination. "We can't just observe from here. There's too much to understand. Too much at stake." Her assistant, Mara, nodded, gripping the railing. "Do we really know it's safe?" she asked. Elena shook her head. "Safe is relative. But we know curiosity has always been dangerous and rewarding. We have to see it for ourselves." The team prepared the submersibles once more, this time outfitted with additional sensors, cameras, and protective shields. Word of their discovery had already spread to the scientific community, though the public was kept in suspense. Governments and corporations were quietly watching, waiting to see if humanity had stumbled upon a relic or something far more powerful. As Elena and Tomas descended toward the ship, a strange calm settled over the water. The sea seemed to respond to the vessel's presence. The currents softened, the waves held their rhythm, and the submersible's instruments detected subtle shifts in the electromagnetic field emanating from the ship. Elena's heart raced. Every instinct she had screamed that they were approaching something alive, something aware. "Depth 20 meters above seabed," Tomas announced. "Sensors picking up. Unusual energy patterns again." Elena leaned forward, scanning the display. The hull was more complex than she had imagined. The symbols that covered the surface were now clearer, intricate patterns that seemed to pulse softly, almost like they were breathing. "Bring us closer to that glowing panel," Elena instructed. The submersible moved slowly, gliding as if the water itself had become a cushion. The glow from the panel intensified as they approached, bathing the cabin in an ethereal blue light. Elena held her breath. The panel was not merely decorative, it was functional. Small doors slid open along the hull, revealing machinery that defied explanation. The gears, rods, and conduits shimmered with a material that was neither fully metal nor fully organic. The submersible's scanners struggled to read it. "It's alive," Tomas whispered, voice almost a reverent murmur. "Or it's something that mimics life so perfectly, it fools every sensor we have." Elena nodded slowly. "It's intelligence. Pure intelligence. And it's ancient. Whatever created this ship, they understood things we're only beginning to imagine." Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed outward from the ship, brushing against the submersible. The instruments went wild, recording readings that made no sense. Then, as quickly as it came, the pulse faded. But something had changed. The interior lights of the submersible flickered, and on the screens, faint projections appeared. The projections were shapes, fluid, glowing, humanoid forms but unlike any human. They floated in the water, transparent yet radiant, moving in slow, deliberate motions. Elena's stomach tightened. The forms were not threatening, but their presence was overwhelming. "It's communicating," Elena breathed. "Not with words, with patterns. It's showing us something." Tomas leaned closer to the screen, squinting. "They're teaching us? Or testing us?" Elena nodded. She had seen similar patterns in advanced artificial intelligence simulations, but nothing like this. The forms moved in ways that suggested logic, intelligence, and intent far beyond human capability. "It's trying to see if we can understand it, to see if we're ready." Hours passed as they observed. The projections shifted, interacting with the ship's mechanisms. Panels opened and closed. Lights flickered in rhythm. and small devices floated out, scanning the submersible as if examining the humans inside. Elena felt a strange connection, a pull of curiosity that went beyond mere fascination. She realized that the ship, this ancient intelligence, was alive in a way that challenged everything she knew about life. Suddenly, the submersible shook violently. Alarms blared. Elena and Tomas struggled to stabilize it. The ship had activated a section of its interior, causing energy waves that rippled through the water. The projections recoiled, then multiplied, surrounding the submersible in a luminous, chaotic dance. "Steady!" Elena shouted. "We're observers, not threats." The forms seemed to understand. Slowly, they parted, guiding the submersible toward a large hatch that had opened along the hull. The glow from inside the ship was warm, inviting, unlike the cold metallic light she expected. Elena took a deep breath. "We're going in." The hatch accepted them, sliding closed behind the submersible as it entered the ship's interior. The glow intensified, illuminating a corridor that was neither entirely mechanical nor organic. Walls curved with smooth precision, covered in the same intricate patterns as the exterior. The air, or what passed for air here, was filled with a faint hum, like the whisper of a living being. This is incredible," Tomas whispered, almost afraid to speak too loudly. Elena studied the walls, noting the symbols that pulsed with light. Some seemed like writing, others like diagrams, and some were patterns she could not even begin to decipher. She reached out with a scanner, and the symbols responded, changing color, forming shapes that mimicked her movements. "It's alive," she repeated. "It's not just a ship, it's a sentient entity, and it wants to interact." The submersible came to a stop in front of a chamber larger than any cathedral Elena had seen. Inside, the projections gathered, forming a circle around what appeared to be the ship's core. A sphere of luminous energy floated in the center, spinning slowly, radiating warmth and intelligence. It was the heart of the ship, and Elena felt its presence deeply, as if it were reading her thoughts. "It's magnificent," she said softly. "It's the mind of the ship." The projections moved closer, their forms delicate and fluid. They did not speak, but the patterns of light they emitted conveyed meaning. Elena focused, trying to understand. She realized they were showing her visions, scenes from the past, civilizations rising and falling, stars being born and dying, worlds being shaped. "It's teaching us history," Tomas murmured. "History we've never known." Elena's mind raced. The ship had survived millennia, preserving knowledge lost to time. If humanity could understand even a fraction of this, it could change everything, from science to philosophy to the understanding of life itself. Suddenly, the energy sphere pulsed violently. The projections scattered as the walls of the chamber shifted, revealing hidden passages. From one of them, a device emerged, small, delicate, and glowing. It floated toward the submersible, then stopped. A wave of comprehension washed over Elena. "It's offering us a key," she whispered. "Something to take back with us, to learn from." Tomas reached for it, but Elena held up her hand. "No. Let's observe first. It wants us to understand, not just take." They spent hours studying the device, documenting its form and function. The ship's intelligence seemed to approve, guiding their attention toward important features, emphasizing understanding over possession. Elena felt a deep respect for the entity, realizing that this was not a tool to exploit but a teacher to learn from. As the day drew to a close, the team prepared to return to the research vessel. The ship's core pulsed gently, and the projections formed a farewell pattern, guiding the submersible back toward the hatch. When they emerged into the open water, the ship's exterior glowed softly in the dimming light, as if acknowledging their departure. Elena's heart was full of awe and humility. "We've only scratched the surface," she said. "This ship, it's more than a vessel. It's a guardian, a library, a mind, and it chose to reveal itself to us." Tomas nodded, eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Do you think it will let anyone else come near it?" Elena shook her head. "I don't know. But it seems selective." It wants those who can understand, who are ready to learn. Back on the research vessel, the team worked late into the night, analyzing the data and footage. Every image revealed new mysteries, symbols that shifted when touched by light, machinery that seemed alive, and patterns of intelligence that challenged every assumption about life. Elena leaned back, staring at the glowing ship in the distance. Humanity had found something extraordinary, something that demanded respect and understanding. She knew the world above would soon notice, and with it would come curiosity, fear, and greed. But for now, she allowed herself a quiet moment of wonder. Somewhere inside that ancient vessel, a presence watched them, aware and patient. It had waited centuries for the right moment. And now, humanity had arrived. The real journey was just beginning. And for the first time, Elena felt the weight of the future pressing down on her, not as a burden, but as an invitation to learn, to grow, and to rise to a level humanity had only dreamed of. The next morning, the research vessel cut through calm waters as Elena Maris and her team prepared for another descent. The sun glinted off the ship's hull, revealing patterns of light that pulsed softly, as if acknowledging their presence. The previous day's discoveries had left the team in awe, but also with many questions. The ship had intelligence, awareness, and knowledge beyond human understanding. Today, they hoped to learn more and perhaps understand the ship's purpose. Tomas, check the submersible systems twice, Elena instructed. Yesterday's energy pulses overloaded a few sensors. We can't afford surprises today. Tomas nodded, running diagnostics. Everything looks stable. We'll be ready. But I still can't get over what we saw. That core. It felt alive. Elena glanced at the glowing ship in the distance. Alive, yes. But also deliberate. Every movement, every pulse, it's testing us, teaching us. And now, it's expecting us to respond. As they descended, the water seemed to shimmer around them. The ship's presence was stronger now, more active. Sensors detected energy waves that reached farther than before, and the patterns of light on the hull seemed to shift with intent. Elena felt a thrill mixed with caution. This was no longer an observation mission. The ship was interacting, almost inviting them to engage directly. The submersible approached the glowing hatch from yesterday. It slid open as if anticipating their arrival. Inside, the corridors were alive with motion. The walls pulsed softly, light tracing along intricate symbols. The air, or what passed for air here, vibrated with low hums, resonating with a rhythm Elena could almost feel in her chest. Stay focused, she whispered. Observe, record. But don't touch anything, we're not meant to. The central chamber awaited them, and the moment they entered, the energy sphere pulsed more strongly than ever. The luminous projections, tall, fluid forms, moved with a purpose now. They circled the submersible, light patterns forming shapes Elena struggled to comprehend. Slowly, the shapes coalesced into symbols that floated in the water, resembling diagrams, mathematical patterns, and star maps. It's communicating complex ideas, Tomas said, eyes wide. Not words, concepts, science, physics, geometry, things we don't yet understand. Elena felt the weight of the realization. This was a repository of knowledge from an intelligence far older than humanity. If they could decipher even a fraction, it could elevate human understanding beyond imagination. Then the sphere pulsed again, and the room shook. Instruments aboard the submersible went wild. Elena held tightly to her seat as the projections swirled faster, their light intensifying. A warning ran through her mind, not in words, but in sensation. The ship was alive, but it was also defensive. It was testing their intentions. Suddenly, a section of the chamber shifted, revealing a narrow passage leading deeper into the ship. The projections guided the submersible forward, forming a path of blue light. Elena realized that the ship wanted them to follow, to learn, to prove their readiness. As they moved deeper, the ship's internal mechanisms became more apparent. Gears and conduits hummed with energy, flowing like liquid, bending light as if reality itself was subtly altered within the corridors. The symbols on the walls responded to their movements, highlighting patterns when scanned, pulsing in response to attention. Elena felt as if the ship were alive in every sense, thinking, observing, and guiding. Suddenly, an alarm flashed on the submersible's display. Energy readings spiked. The chamber shook violently. Elena and Thomas exchanged tense glances. "It's reacting," Thomas said, voice tight. "Something we did triggered it." Elena frowned. "We haven't touched anything. Yet. It's testing us further." The energy sphere expanded, sending ripples through the water. The luminous projections coalesced into forms resembling ancient humanoids, but taller, more delicate, radiating light. They moved around the submersible, forming a barrier while patterns of light projected symbols in the water. Elena realized that these were not hostile, they were defensive, protecting the ship's core while simultaneously teaching. The submersible's instruments captured star maps, diagrams of energy flows, and schematics of devices that seemed impossibly advanced. Elena studied them, her mind racing to connect the symbols with known physics. The ship was showing her the principles of energy, propulsion, and communication that could change human understanding entirely. "This is beyond anything we've ever imagined," she whispered. "It's teaching us, giving us knowledge." Thomas glanced at her nervously. "But at what cost? Look at how it reacted when we entered deeper." "If it senses a threat," Elena nodded, understanding his concern. "We must be careful. It's powerful, and it's aware of us. One wrong move, and we could trigger a defense we can't handle." They proceeded with caution, following the luminous path deeper into the ship. The passages twisted and curved, impossibly long for a vessel of its surface size. Elena noticed that some walls displayed scenes, visual memories of civilizations rising and falling, planets being shaped, and stars forming. The ship was a living record of the cosmos, a witness to events humanity had no way of knowing. Suddenly, a low, resonant hum filled the submersible. The core's energy sphere pulsed rapidly, and the projections began to spiral in complex patterns. Elena felt a surge of understanding, as if the ship were transferring knowledge directly to her mind. Concepts of energy flow, interstellar navigation, and the manipulation of matter were presented not in words, but in pure thought. She gasped, overwhelmed by the volume and clarity of the information. "It's teaching us directly," she whispered. "Not just showing, connecting." Tomas gripped her arm. "Can we handle it? This much knowledge? It's too much." Elena nodded slowly. "We must. We have no choice. If humanity is to rise, we need this, but we must respect it, not abuse it." The energy sphere pulsed violently, and the submersible shook again. Symbols on the walls formed a clear warning. The ship could defend itself if it perceived a threat. Elena realized that this intelligence had survived millennia because it balanced openness with caution. It offered knowledge, but only to those who could prove understanding and responsibility. "Do you see that?" she said, pointing at a series of patterns forming near the core. "It's showing us what happens to civilizations that misuse knowledge. Destruction, collapse, extinction. It's warning us, teaching us the cost of power without wisdom." Tomas swallowed hard. "So it trusts us, partially. But it's ready to act if we fail." Elena nodded. "Exactly. That's the test. Not brute force. Not possession. Understanding and respect." They spent hours absorbing what the ship offered, documenting everything meticulously. Each projection, each pulse of energy, was recorded, stored, and analyzed. The ship's intelligence continued to guide them, shifting the patterns to emphasize concepts, showing them not only technology but the philosophy behind its creation. Suddenly, the submersible's systems detected another presence, external energy signatures approaching. A rival corporate vessel had arrived, likely alerted by satellite tracking. Elena's heart sank. Greed had followed them. "They're here," she whispered, gripping the console. "And they'll try to take it by force," Tomas grimaced. "We can't let them." The ship. It won't tolerate aggression. Above the ship, the corporate vessel attempted to launch a drone to access the core. Instantly, energy waves shot outward, disabling the drones and sending ripples across the ocean surface. The ship's presence was undeniable, its power vast, far beyond human engineering. The projections intensified, forming protective barriers around the core, warning humanity above and below that the ship could not be controlled by force. Elena realized the lesson the ship was teaching was not just theoretical. It demanded ethical responsibility. Knowledge could not be claimed through greed. It had to be earned. "We need to leave," she said firmly. "For now, we've taken what we need to understand the ship, but we cannot push further while others are trying to exploit it." Tomas nodded, piloting the submersible carefully toward the exit. The projections formed a farewell pattern, guiding them safely out. As they emerged from the hatch, the ship's core pulsed gently, and the luminous forms dispersed, leaving a calm energy in the water. On the surface, Elena watched the ship. It floated serenely, almost peacefully. Yet there was a quiet warning in its rhythm. Humanity had glimpsed its power and wisdom, but the true test was only beginning. Those who sought to exploit it would fail. Those who sought to learn, as Elena and her team did, would rise. "This changes everything," she said softly. "The ship is alive, intelligent, and it has chosen to interact with us. We are no longer merely explorers. We are students of an intelligence far older than humanity itself." Tomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "And it trusts us. Partially. But the challenge is far from over." Elena nodded. She knew the coming days would be critical. The world above would soon discover the ship's existence. Governments, corporations, and military forces would converge, bringing curiosity, fear, and greed. Humanity would face tests not only of intellect but of morality, and the ship would judge who was worthy of its secrets. As night fell, the ship's glow remained visible on the horizon. Elena felt awe and humility in equal measure. The vessel had awakened, and with it, a new chapter of human history had begun. Somewhere within the ship, the energy sphere pulsed in a steady, measured rhythm, watching and learning, waiting for humanity to prove itself. The real challenge was approaching understanding not only the knowledge it offered but also the responsibility it demanded. Elena stared at the glowing vessel, feeling the weight of her mission and the hope it carried. Humanity had risen from curiosity, now standing at the threshold of understanding, and for the first time, she felt certain. This was not the end, but the awakening. The next morning, the research vessel sailed steadily toward the glowing ship, its immense hull floating like a monument of a forgotten age. Elena Maris stood at the bow, staring at the vast structure, feeling both awe and anticipation. The previous days had shown her and her team that this was no ordinary discovery. The ship was intelligent, aware, and capable of testing humanity itself. Today, they would attempt to deepen the connection, to earn trust, to learn more than they ever thought possible. "Tomas, all systems ready?" Elena asked, her voice calm but firm. Tomas nodded. "Submersibles are fully operational. Sensors calibrated. We're ready for full entry." Elena took a deep breath, remembering the lessons of the past encounters. The ship had guided them gently, tested their intentions, and now seemed to respond positively to patience and understanding. It was a living intelligence, vast beyond comprehension, and it had chosen to interact with them. As they descended, the water shimmered with the ship's soft blue light. The energy fields that surrounded it pulsed in patterns that felt like an invitation. Elena felt her heart quicken. The ship was aware, and it was waiting for them. Inside the submersible, the team approached the familiar hatch, which slid open gracefully. As they entered the ship, the corridors glowed, their walls alive with symbols and flowing patterns. Each step seemed guided, purposeful. The ship was teaching them not only to observe, but to understand. "Follow the light patterns," Elena instructed. "They've led us safely before, and I trust they will again." The corridors twisted and expanded, impossible in their geometry, yet entirely coherent. Light flowed along the walls like rivers, forming diagrams and sequences that hinted at knowledge far beyond human understanding. Elena and Tomas moved slowly, absorbing every detail. In the central chamber, the energy sphere floated as before, its light warm and inviting. The luminous projections gathered around them, forming complex shapes and patterns. This time, they seemed to offer more than lessons. They were extending opportunity. The ship had chosen to trust humanity further. Elena focused, attempting to decipher the patterns. She realized that the ship was presenting sequences that represented energy manipulation, propulsion systems, and communication technologies. It was showing them how to harness energy from stars, how to build systems that could travel between planets, and how to communicate across vast distances without delay. "This is incredible," Tomas whispered. "The possibilities. We could solve energy crises, reach other planets. We could advance centuries in a matter of years." Elena nodded, but her mind was cautious. "We have to be careful. Knowledge without wisdom can destroy. The ship is teaching us. Yes, but it is also testing our responsibility." As they explored further, the ship revealed areas that had remained hidden before. Rooms filled with delicate machinery floated gently in water, powered by forces that Elena could not yet understand. Some devices appeared to manipulate gravity, others to store immense energy without heat. Each mechanism pulsed with life, almost organic, and the ship's intelligence guided them to understand the principles behind each system, rather than just the physical forms. "It's not just giving us technology," Elena said softly. "It's teaching us thinking, how to reason, how to build, how to understand the universe responsibly." "Elena, come state." Tomas looked at her, awe and concern mixing on his face. "And what about the rest of the world? Once they know it exists?" Elena's gaze hardened. "We control the knowledge. We decide who is worthy. The ship's lessons aren't for greed, they're for growth. Humanity must rise responsibly." Suddenly, the submersible's instruments detected an approaching energy signature. The corporate vessel that had tried to intervene before was back, more aggressive, trying to access the ship directly. Elena cursed under her breath. Greed never slept, and they had no understanding of what they were confronting. "Prepare for defense," she said. "The ship will handle it, but we cannot let them harm it." Outside, the ship's energy fields expanded. Pulses of power radiated across the surface, disrupting any mechanical attempts to approach. Drones were disabled before they even reached the hull. Waves rippled unnaturally, warning the intruders that the vessel was alive, aware, and capable of defending itself. Inside, the luminous projections shifted. They formed patterns resembling shields, circles of light that strengthened the ship's defenses. Elena realized that the intelligence understood the threat immediately and acted with precision. Force alone could not overcome it, only understanding and respect could earn its cooperation. Elena focused on the ship again. "We've come for knowledge, not power. Help us, and we will respect your trust." The energy sphere pulsed brightly, and the ship responded. The aggressive attempts from outside were neutralized without harm. The projections formed welcoming patterns, guiding Elena and her team to a previously hidden chamber. This room was larger than any they had seen. A vast hall filled with crystalline structures that glowed with internal light. Each crystal contained information, holographic images of stars, planets, and civilizations. It was a record, a library of knowledge from a civilization far older and wiser than humanity. Elena realized the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The ship was not only intelligent, it was a guardian of history, of wisdom accumulated over countless millennia, and it had chosen humans to share it with, to guide the next stage of their evolution. They spent hours exploring the hall, documenting everything, learning from the symbols, the holograms, and the machines. The ship's intelligence seemed to anticipate their questions, presenting information in ways that were intuitive, almost instinctive. Energy systems, interstellar navigation, sustainable technologies, and even philosophies of life were revealed in a sequence that built understanding gradually. Tomas leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. Elena, this is more than science. This is life itself, teaching us to live wisely, to think responsibly. Elena nodded, feeling the truth in his words. Yes. The ship is showing us that knowledge without morality is useless. We must learn. Yes, but also respect, care, and grow responsibly. As the day progressed, the team realized that the ship's ultimate lesson was cooperation. They could not take the knowledge by force, nor could one individual claim it. It required teamwork, humility, and patience. Only through understanding could they unlock the full potential of the ancient vessel. Suddenly, the ship's core pulsed with extraordinary intensity. Light filled the chamber, and the projections coalesced into a single, radiant form. Elena felt a connection deeper than thought, a communication beyond words. The ship was speaking, conveying understanding, responsibility, and trust. It was offering humanity a choice: to rise together, with wisdom and care, or to falter under greed and impatience. Elena felt the weight of the responsibility. We accept, she whispered, her voice firm. We accept the lessons, and we promise to protect this knowledge, to share it wisely, and to grow with it. The ship responded with a pulse of light, a gentle but undeniable affirmation. The lessons intensified, the knowledge expanded, and Elena felt the minds of her team intertwining with the ship's intelligence. They were learning not just facts, but understanding, seeing patterns, possibilities, and the consequences of choices. Hours passed like minutes. When they finally returned to the submersible, the ship's energy fields had receded, its glow soft but steady. The luminous projections drifted along the hull, a silent acknowledgement of cooperation and trust. Outside, the sea was calm, the sky painted with the colors of sunset. The world had not yet discovered the ancient vessel, but Elena knew that humanity had changed. Back on the research vessel, Elena looked at her team. We've been given a gift, she said quietly. Not technology, not power, but understanding. The ship has chosen to teach us, because it believes we are ready. We must live up to that trust. Tomas nodded, his expression a mix of awe and determination. We have a chance to rise, not just as a species, but as thinkers, as caretakers of knowledge. Elena felt hope swell inside her. Humanity had always reached for the stars, often blindly, often greedily, but now, guided by the intelligence of the ship, they had a path of wisdom, responsibility, and growth. The night fell, and the ship remained on the horizon, glowing softly, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. Elena knew it would always be there, a guardian and teacher, waiting for humanity to learn, to grow, and to rise to its potential. For the first time, she felt certain that the future was not only possible but bright. Humanity had touched the ancient, learned from it, and now stood at the threshold of a new era, an era of understanding, of cooperation, and of hope. And somewhere within the ship, its intelligence pulsed gently, aware of the humans who had earned its trust, ready to guide them into a future where knowledge and responsibility could coexist, and where humanity could truly rise.